CBT Nuggets JNCIS Security Series, Content and Anti-Spam Filtering. Well, in the final nugget of our series, we're going to look at the final two UTM features, Unified Threat Management, and that is content filtering and anti-spam filtering. Let's take a look. Okay, let's get an overview of content filtering right off the bat, this feature of UTM, which does demand a license, a subscription license from Juniper, so it's going to cost you. Why do I have a MIME up here? Well, I think you know where I'm going with this. Okay, content filtering will block or allow specific MIME types. All right, different kind of MIME, but I'm sure that you like to block MIMEs out as often as you can as well. So we can block out certain MIME types, file extensions, and protocol commands as well. For example, certain commands of FTP, let's say, which will be what we're doing in our example. Maybe you want to block out certain commands of HTTP. You don't want to use the head command, for example. The CF will control file transfers across the SRX. It'll check traffic against the configured filter list, and we'll look at that configuration here in a moment. The content filtering module will evaluate the traffic. This says before all other ATM modules, but that's not true. The web filtering will check it out first. So web filtering first, then comes the content filter module evaluating traffic. If the traffic meets the configured criteria in the content filter, then it will first act on the traffic. Remember though that not all of your harmful components are going to be seen in a MIME or a file extension, but we could also use other content filter modules to block ActiveX, Java applets, cookies, exe files, and zip files as well. Now, it's very similar to the previous nugget where we created these custom objects for web filtering, and we're going to use these custom objects here in content filtering to create our content filtering profiles. So for my scenario, we're going to have these custom objects. We'll have two protocol command lists. One will be called FTP command 1. The other will be called FTP command 2. Then we're going to add commands to it. The user, the pass, the port, and the type command. We'll then create a file name extension list. We'll call this ext list 1, and we'll add the .zip, the .js, and the .vbs extensions to that list. And then thirdly, we're going to define a block MIME list. We're going to call it MIME1, and we'll add patterns to the list. Sound good? Okay, let's take a look at the syntax. Okay, this should be familiar territory to us as we saw this in the web filtering nugget earlier. We're in the Edit Security UTM context here, and we're going to first create two protocol command lists with the set security UTM custom objects, and then it's going to be a protocol command as a type of custom object we're going to create here. The first protocol command is FTP command 1 and then FTP command 2. Notice what values we want to include here. FTP commands user, pass, port, and type. For more information on the FTP command types, just go look at the RFC on that or just do a search in your favorite search engine. Next, we want to create a file name extension list. So this is a custom object of the type file name-extension. We'll call this ext list 1. And then the values we're going to include here are the zip, JS for JavaScript, and VBS. We'll add those three extensions to our list. Then let's create some antivirus scanning list with a custom object of MIME pattern. We'll do MIME1 and then xMIME1. We'll add a couple of values here, the value of QuickTime video and QuickTime inappropriate. Okay, now we're still in the Edit Security UTM context here. We want to now configure a feature profile. This feature profile we're going to call ConFilter1. It'll be the only one we have. We want to designate some custom objects to be used for filtering content. We're going to apply that FTP command 1 here. This is our protocol command list custom object. We're going to apply that to ConFilter1. We want to block Java applets, executable files, and HTTP cookies. We'll do that here with the block content type command. within this profile conFilter1, we're going to apply the MIME pattern list custom objects. We have MIME1 and XMIME1. So we'll see our command is set security UTM feature profile, content filtering profile, conFilter1 is the name of the filter object, and we're going to say block-MIME, and then the list MIME1 and XMIME1 is our exception. Here, we're going to apply FTP command 2 to our conFilter. This permit command statement here basically is saying that this is an exception list for the block protocol command. Remember, protocol command lists, whether they be permit and block, are generated by using the same custom object. So you can see we've got blocks, block content type, block extension, block MIME, but here's an exception and here's a permit command. And then finally we want to configure a custom message to send a notification. The notification options, custom message, and it'll say the action is not taken. And we're going to notify the mail sender with type message. Okay, we're back up here at the top at edit. We're going to set our security policies, the from zone trust, the to zone untrust. We'll call our policy P1. So first we're going to match any source address, then we're going to match any destination address, and then we're going to match the application Junos HTTP. Then we'll permit, our action will be application services, and then UTM policy, and then we'll go ahead and call this UTMP1, or whatever you've named your policy. Then we want to commit that, and then this is a really important command, especially from an exam standpoint, because in all of the UTM features we've seen so far, we want to do monitoring and verification, and we're in configuration, so it'd be run show security UTM, but at the operational mode, it would be show security UTM. And of course, follow that up with a question mark, and you would see all your different options that you have. Here we're going to do show security UTM and then content filtering statistics. But of course, you could do antivirus statistics, web filtering statistics, whatever you want to see with this show security UTM command. Very important verification and monitoring command there. Okay, the final UTM feature we're going to look at and the final topic of this JNCIS Security Series nugget is anti-spam filtering. And no, I don't like spam in any form, okay, including the kind you have to eat. As you're already well aware, spam is unwanted, commercial, malicious, or fraudulent email. The anti-spam feature on our SRX is going to look at sent email messages to identify what we consider spam messages. Of course, we're comparing that against a database. Let's say the device detects a suspect message. Well, it's going to either block the message or it can tag the message header or the subject with a predefined or user-defined string value that we as administrators can set up. We can use the anti-spam filter with either a third-party server-based spam block list known as an SBL, and or we can optionally create our own local whitelist and blacklist. So these can work together. I'll show you the processing order here in a moment. And often it's a good idea to go ahead and use both when it comes to spam. Now, one thing about the anti-spam feature that we're going to talk about here in the UTM is this is really a defense in depth mechanism in the sense that this is an aggregate or an add-on to hopefully some more robust anti-spam appliance or implementation. This could be something that goes along, let's say, with your Microsoft Exchange solution. It could be some appliance from some vendor. Cisco has its Iron Port series that's actually a pretty good option if you're not opposed to using some Cisco solutions. So we want to use the anti-spam feature either on our J-series router or our SRX as a complement, okay, as an add-on to our anti-spam services. The amount of overhead this is going to apply to our router or our SRX can be a little bit overwhelming. So sometimes you may want to focus just on certain big categories of bulk spam. Now, if you're going to be using SBL or server-based spam, we have to have internet connectivity. And that connectivity has to go to a spam block list. Obviously, along with that, we need DNS. We'll need DNS to access the SBL server so that our SRS can perform these lookups through DNS lookups against the IP address of the sender, or in some, I would say, rare circumstances, a relay agent. Okay, the relay agent or the sender of the email. Then we'll add the name of the SBL server as the authoritative domain. Okay, now the DNS server will then forward every request to the SBL server, which is usually going to be a network load balance type server. So we're actually hitting a publicly routable logical address or virtual address that represents a cluster or a group of network load balance servers. These will return a DNS response to the device in our case being the SRX. So the SRX will interpret that DNS response to determine if the email sender is indeed a spammer. Now, if we're going to categorize somebody as a spammer, obviously there needs to be some criteria that the SBL server or servers are going to look at to say, hey, this is actually a spammer. And these are 5 attributes of an IP address that are going to represent a possible spammer. I want you to remember these for the exam, okay? If you're running an open relay service, which you shouldn't ever be doing that yourself, and if the spammer is running an open relay, then that's going to be on the spam list. If it's running open proxy servers, it could be a zombie host that's possibly been compromised by some type of malware, a Trojan, a virus, a worm, a advanced persistent threat, some type of malware. Okay, if it's a zombie host, that'll be a spammer. If it's using a dynamic IP range, and there's certain exploit kits, for example, black hole exploit kit. I mean, as well as others. Okay, but I know Black Hole Exploit Kit 2.0. I'm not going to go check that out on the internet. This has the ability for malicious hackers to go and randomize URLs and randomize IP address ranges. So there's exploits out there that can do this. If it's using a dynamic IP range, that's going to red flag as a spammer according to the SBL. And if it is a certified or confirmed spam source with a known IP address, maybe on a blacklist, then of course that will be marked as spam. So let's say you're using an SRX 220 over here at a regional branch office, and this is going to be your spam filtering device. The SRX will first check incoming email, say it's coming to this interface here, against its local whitelist and local blacklist by default. That's the default behavior. Now, if there are no local lists, okay, you haven't configured local spam filtering, or let's say the sender's IP address is not on a configured whitelist or blacklist, then the device is going to query the SBL server out here on the internet. Now, if you've configured both server-based spam filtering, SBL, and local list spam filtering, then here's the order that the checks are going to be done on this SRX 220. First, the local whitelist is checked. Okay, these are the good senders. If there's a match, there's no further checking done. But if there is no match, the local blacklist is checked. Okay, if there's a blacklist, then that's going to be dropped and logged, and no further checking will be done. If there's no match on the whitelist or the blacklist, then the SBL server list is checked. Now, if your anti-spam license key, which is a subscription, and you can go to juniper.net to check out your options there. If the anti-spam license key has expired, then the SBL server matching will stop. Okay, not the local. And by the way, if you're using, let's say, an SRX 100 or a 210, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. I think I failed to mention this. But if you're using a 100 or a 210, a low-end device, for things like local web filtering and local whitelist and blacklist, you have to have the high memory versions of this, okay, the high memory versions, uh, to be able to use these free UTM features. Okay, so keep that in mind. And so again, if the anti-spam license key is expired, then there will be no SBL server matching. Very important. Okay, the first configuration we're going to look at here is the SBL option, the server-based anti-spam filtering. And the first step here is to create our profile. Now, realize something about our server, okay, the SBL server. The name and the IP address is predefined on your SRX, okay, it's pre-configured. Now, this command right here actually is creating our profile, set security UTM feature profile, anti-spam, and then we're going to call it SBL. And then the profile is SBL profile 1. And this SBL-default-server, this is actually the command that enables the SBL server lookup. I want you to remember that for the exam. Now, if I issued this command as no SBL-default-server, that basically disables SBL. So you would put the no SBL default server there if you were just going to use local lists, or if you don't have a license for the server-based spam filtering, then you would enter your profile keyword in the profile name and then no-SBL-default-server. Okay, keep that in mind. Next, we're going to configure the action that we're going to take on the SRX when spam is detected. Okay, so in our profile, SBL profile 1, we're going to say our spam dash action is going to be block. Now we have two other options. Okay, we can block, we can also tag the header with tag dash header, or we could tag the subject with tag dash subject. If you want to identify the message as spam in the message itself, you can see down here under the SBL profile 1 in SBL default server, our custom tag string is going to be asterisk 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 spam asterisk asterisk asterisk. Next, we need to attach this feature profile to our policy. So we're going to now do set security UTM policy, and then here's our spam policy 1 is what we're going to name this, and then anti-spam SMTP profile. So the anti-spam STP profile is the aforementioned, the configured SBL profile 1. So we're attaching our profile, our feature profile, to our anti-spam spam policy. Now you can see below here we're doing our security policy. Okay, so we're going to configure a security policy for UTM, and then we're going to attach the UTM policy. So from the trust zone to the untrust zone, the policy is UTM policy 1. We're going to match any source address, and we're going to match any destination address, and we're going to match application Junos SMTP, of course, because this is for mail services. And then finally, from the trust zone to the untrust zone, our UTM policy 1, our action is to permit application services, and then the UTM policy points back up here to spam policy 1. So you can see how we've got our UTM policy, which is UTM policy 1, and then it is nesting or pointing to the spam policy 1, and you can see spam policy 1 points back to our SBL profile 1. Okay, see how all of these work together. Okay, so here's these commands again, right here. Once you issue these commands, in other words, with your policy, you'll then want to commit them. And then the verification we can do, since we're going to be still in the configuration mode, is to run show security UTM anti-spam status and run show security UTM anti-spam statistics. Okay, those are our two monitoring and verification commands. Remember those for the exam. Now here we see our configuration for our local spam filtering, okay, which we know is processed first, but I went ahead and showed you the SBL configuration first. Now we've got, in our first couple of commands here, we're going to configure our local list spam blocking with some global local spam lists. So the first one, you can see this is set security UTM custom objects URL pattern, and then as black, as dash black, and then the value is obviously, this is a bad IP address, 209.165.200.134. Then we'll set we'll call this pattern as white. So this is a good value, a good IP address to source email at 151.2.3. Then we configure a profile for our local list spam blocking. So we've got set security UTM feature profile anti-spam, and we're just saying, look, the address whitelist is as white, okay, right up there. Next, we'll configure a profile for our local list spam blocking. Set security UTM feature profile anti-spam SBL. The profile, call it local profile 1. And then we're saying here the spam action we're going to take is to block. And again, we can tag the header, we can tag the subject. Here's the custom string, just like we saw earlier, but this is for our local profile 1. Okay, if there's a match on the as black value, okay, it'll be 3 asterisks, the word spam, and then 3 more asterisks. Here, we're attaching with the set command the spam feature profile to our UTM policy. So set security UTM policy, call this one spam policy 2, and then anti-spam SMTP profile, and then of course pointing back to our local profile 1 up here with the keyword local profile 1. Now we're going to do our security policy, right? Set security policies from the trust zone to the untrust zone, UTM policy 2, any source address, from trust to untrust, UTM policy 2, any destination address, and from trust to untrust, UTM policy 2, matching application Junos SMTP. This is just like before. And then finally, we're going to take the action of permitting application services, and then the UTM policy is, well, spam policy 2, which we can see is right up here, which links to local profile 1, which we've configured up here. When we're done, click on commit, and of course don't forget your verification commands: show security UTM anti-spam status and show security UTM anti-spam statistics. Excellent. In this final nugget of the JNCIS Security Series, we looked at our last 2 UTM features: Unified Threat Management, Content Filtering, and Anti-Spam Filtering on the SRX. This is the final nugget of our nugget series, and I hope this has been an informative series for you. I've really enjoyed bringing this information to you, helping you not only pass this exam, but to help you rapidly deploy all the feature sets that are fundamentally available to you on the SRX device, from a low-end device up to a higher-end device, even on your J-Series router if you want to as well. On behalf of CBT Nuggets and myself, Michael Shannon, I want to wish you all the success in the world, not just on your Juniper studies and your career, but in life in general. And I hope to have you back again soon for another CBT Nugget series. Take care and all the best.